Excited to all today. So the reason why this class came up is because I was, I think in the last master class that we did, the last workshop that we did in November, this topic of the origin story came up a couple of times. And I really felt like, you know what, to close out the year, I really wanted to talk to you all about how to figure out what your origin story is and how to remove it so that you can flourish and grow and prosper, which makes me really happy. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got like a 15-20 minute kind of class. I know it's a lot of content. It's a lot of like lessons in there, but my goal is to make it so that we end at about 120, 125, and we do have some time for Q&A. So that way we have some time to talk about things. You all have my email, I believe. So if you have any questions or you want to share an aha moment, feel free to reach out to me. And if you want to ask me something privately and you're shy and you don't want anyone to see your question, just wait until I stop sharing my screen and then private message me and I will answer your question without revealing your name so that you always feel safe in this area with us, okay? So let me share my screen. It always is a little bit murky when I share my screen because Zoom doesn't let the transition happen smoothly. It's not like StreamYard where I can upload the the PDF. So it looks a little bit wonky right now. So almost like close your eyes. And my laptop has been like super slow. I think I need to do an update of some sort. Okay, let's get started. All right, so it's the November workshop. I did this without my reading glasses on, so hopefully there aren't a lot of typos. So if you don't know anything about me, I've been teaching programs for a really long time. I was a Pilates instructor before and a personal trainer before I started FemCity. So I've been teaching for a really long time. I recently worked with our Miami mayor's office here, created a pilot program for their Thrive 305, where I created programming for over 70,000 Miami residents. I've also worked with different brands like Royal Caribbean, United Healthcare, Peepers, Floor & Decor, OG. I worked as a consultant for 2 City of Miami mayors, and I've also facilitated programs for United Way, Girl Scouts, and I've been pretty much in every newspaper, magazine when it comes to business and small business as a small business expert. So I've been around. That's my point. I've been around for a really long time, and I am an official small business expert. So what I'm sharing with you today are techniques and tools that I've used myself. So let's talk about uncovering one's origin story and identifying the personal blocks that would lead to us growing in our personal or in our business life. So first of all, let's talk about the definition, because you might be like, I don't even know what an origin story is. I have no idea. I just signed up and it looked intriguing. So an origin story is really, it's a narrative that explains the origins of a character, organization, or event, or how it shapes our identities, the way that we are motivated, and our future actions. So often our origin stories dictate the way that we would step forward when it comes to our goals or things that we want to take on. An example that I want to share with you all is I had 3 origin stories that held me back when it came to PR, money, health, and love. And I'm going to share those with you today because I love using my life as an example, because I feel like when you hear from someone's personal journey, you can see how this might be impacting you as well. So as an example, I owned a PR business agency for a couple of years, and I also am really good at PR. And when it came to doing PR for FemCity, I found myself procrastinating all the time. I kept pushing it over and over, away and away and away, and months would turn into years, and I hadn't done any PR for FemCity. And I had to stop and think about what is really happening, because I know how to do it. I have the resources, I have the skill, I have the talent. What's really happening? Because I'm obviously procrastinating other than, oh, I don't have time. So I dived in, and that's when I first started realizing my origin story. So my origin story was that if you do PR for yourself, it means that you are a narcissist and an egomaniac like my mother was, and I never wanted to be like my mother. So it was tied into this origin story about showing up in newspapers and magazines. So when I thought about my origin story, I thought, well, that's really silly, because if I really want to be a change maker in this world and I want to make the world a better place for women, I need to get FemCity out there. And so not doing PR is actually hurting the world, and it's hurting women because they don't know we exist. And so I had to rewrite my origin story in order for it to remove itself as a block so I could move forward. When I did that exercise, and I'm going to work with you on it through this class, I was able to get us into Success Magazine, Entrepreneur. And then, of course, now I've been in like Mary Claire, Cosmopolitan, BBC. I've been into all those magazines because I released this origin story and rewrote it. I had the same thing about money. So I found myself in this block with money. Like I couldn't make more than I wanted to. I kept hovering around this like specific number. And so I dove in, did the same thing. Like, okay, what's my origin story? And my origin story around money was, if I make more money than my partner, they may leave me. If I make more money, then my mother-in-law wouldn't love me. So I had all these origin stories that were really holding me back. And so diving into it, asking these questions and releasing them, rewriting my origin story helped me to remove that block. And I went on to obviously bust through that and make more money. I had the same thing with health. I have a lot of health issues. I am pre-diabetic. I have Hashimoto's. I have a torn ACL. I have 3 herniated discs. I am like what you would call probably a mess. And so health, my story was, I can never be fit. I can never be healthy. I will always have these problems. I had to think about my origin story, dive into it, do this exercise, and then I was able to go ahead and release it. And now, of course, I can bike 20 miles within a cycling class. I can lift heavy weights. I'm in really great shape, probably in the best shape of my life. So rewriting those origin stories. So I'm not going to go into the love one because it's a little bit, I want to kind of keep on going. It's a lot of storytelling there, but I want you to realize like I have been through those scenarios. I had some origin stories that were holding me back, and I want to help you to navigate to see what your origin story is and how to uncover it and how to release it. So anyway, all right, let's move forward to the next one. Okay, so let's dive in to see like what is really happening. So reflecting on pivotal life moments that shaped your values, your dreams, and your resilience. So the money one for me, as an example, I had another origin story. Like I'll always make really bad decisions when it comes to money, because even when I started making a tremendous amount of money, I lost about $250,000 on an investment transaction. And that also set me back with my money story. So sometimes you have these like fluctuating origin stories where you're able to kind of pivot out of it, but then something will happen and it'll push you back in. So even reflecting on these moments in your life that really shaped your origin stories can be very, very helpful. So some questions that I asked myself when I was going through this journey, and I still go through this journey, by the way, I always uncover origin stories, is what experiences have most shaped you who you are today? And if you think about those, sometimes you can come back to a story when you were a child. Maybe it's a love story. Maybe it's the way that you accept love into your life. Maybe it's your money story. You know, what was the first thought that you had about money? Maybe your parents, the lights were always turned off, or maybe it was a struggle to make ends meet and provide, you know, food for your family. So start asking yourself those questions, because that way these origin stories can kind of start uncovering themselves. Sometimes you come to these classes and you already know what your origin story is. What were the defining moments that led you to this path? So when you start asking yourself these questions, it really makes it so that you can hone in into what that origin story is. So I don't want to take time up today. I'm hoping that you can do this exercise later on today, but I really want you to think about one origin story. You may have 20 of them. I mean, I've had so many. I find that as I up level and I become more and more successful, I uncover other origin stories as well. So think about today, what's one origin story that's holding you back? What's that one thing that you've been procrastinating about? What's that one area that you keep saying no to, but you know you need to step into? Is it showing up in social media? Is it going after, you know, making sales calls? Is it starting a business? Is it up-leveling your career? What are some of these stories that are going on? And really just focus on one. If you've been a part of my accountability programs, and those are also free for you all a couple times a year, so take advantage of that with your membership. We always talk about focusing on one. I don't want you to focus on all of them. I just want you to focus on one and really freely write about 3 to 4 minutes about this origin story, because it will help you to uncover what's really happening and what's holding you back. So let's say you kind of know what your origin story is. Let's like maybe you kind of are dancing around it. Let's talk about, how do you understand what's really happening? So sometimes blocks show up and we don't recognize them. And for me, when I know I have a block, when I feel these words, fear, right? So when I was fearful of pitching FemCity in PR because of what it meant to me, I was doubting myself when it came to money because I had already made a bad decision financially. Even though I had gone out of welfare and food stamps and I had created a tremendous amount of wealth, that I went back and lost so much money, created a lot of self doubt. So that could be a block that you have that's going on. Limiting beliefs also, right? So I had limiting beliefs when it came to finances, like, oh my gosh, I'll always lose money. You know, if I lost money this way, I'm always going to lose money. So sometimes we have these limiting beliefs about ourselves. And what really is happening is that we have an origin story that's holding us back. It's really holding us from really moving forward. And sometimes we've created excuses like, I don't have time, or, you know, I don't even know what I would do. I have no idea. Or sometimes we create these excuses without really fully embracing the entire story. Unfortunately, this is not a sexy topic. It's not a glamorous one because it does deal with you having to go back and kind of like reliving and going back to those origin stories to uncover those narratives. Once you uncover them, sometimes you're going to be laughing. Sometimes you'll be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that was holding me back. When I did the PR one, I was like, that's so silly. I cannot believe that was my origin story all this time. And it held me back for years. Or even with my money story or with my love story, holding on to those, once you uncover it, sometimes it can be very, very silly once you make it through. Another thing is, guided visualization or breathing exercises also really help identifying a specific block. This I've used in the past as well. So let's say you figure out you do have a block that when it comes to your wealth, identifying it, that specific block, and visualizing it and mentally releasing it, replacing it with a supportive belief or affirmation. And we'll talk about this before we close out. Another thing that I find it to be very helpful is to, if you've done something that you uncover during this exercise of uncovering your origin story, sometimes it's really great to write a little personal love note to forgive yourself. And that has helped me also because sometimes there's like, once you uncover your origin story, you're very angry that you've allowed this origin story to block you all this time. So there's a little bit of anger, like, how could you? And I can't believe you took you so long to uncover this origin story. Sometimes if you write a little love note with a little forgiveness about, you did the best you could with what you had, and you're releasing it and you're mentally releasing it as well as you visualize or meditate, that has also been very helpful for me in the past. Okay, so let's talk about what do we do once we find that origin story? And really, once you've uncovered, and again, we're just going to focus on one origin story. Once you've uncovered the origin story, that one, embracing the entire story and then moving forward. So let's use my PR one as an example. I realized I had something happening. I kept on procrastinating with the PR for FemCity. I started asking myself the questions, what's really happening? Why am I scared of doing PR for FemCity? Then I started thinking about, oh, I'm scared because I'm going to feel like it's a narcissist or an egocentric person, which is something that I'm very fearful of becoming. Am I really that? What are the receipts? What's really happening? And then how do I move forward? So then I changed the story, as you might remember. I changed and I created a new origin story, which was, if I do PR, it helps to amplify the FemCity movement. It helps to help other women navigate small business. It helps women come together with community and support. Therefore, I need to step forward and do the PR in order for myself to really be a change maker in my community and in this world. So I rewrote the origin story so that it was a source of strength and a guide for future growth versus limiting my beliefs or holding me back. So I reframed that story and that became my new narrative, my new origin story. And I did that with each part of my life. So I did it with PR, I did it with money, I did it with love, I did it with my health. I took those origin stories and I rewrote them from a place of strength that was going to lead me to further success. And then the next steps obviously is connecting to that new origin story and then releasing those blocks. You can use your journaling time, you can use meditation, you can use the visualization that we talked about as well. That helps a lot. But those are some ways to go ahead and replace those origin stories in order for you to move forward. So I'm going to stop sharing because I want to make sure we have some time for Q&A. Oh gosh, good. We have so much time. We have plenty of time for Q&A. This is a great time if you want to ask me a question, but you're shy to post it publicly. This is a good time because I'm not sharing my screen to go ahead and message me privately and I will answer you without mentioning your name. Any questions or any aha moments that you felt while I was guiding you through finding these origin stories? Go ahead, Morita.
Thanks so much for this, Violet. It was really good. Lots to unpack. I was wondering if there's a particular guided visualization that you would recommend that's, available on one of the meditation apps or YouTube or something.
Yeah. So one that I do myself, and it was given to me by one of my spiritual advisors. So I did not create it, but this one has helped me a lot. And I'm going to, this is recorded. So if you want to do this meditation, I would look for it in the library later on and do it with me guiding you at a slower pace. I'm going to kind of rush through it. But in essence, what I do is I remove all of my technology, like my phone, my computer, the TV. I close myself. So I'm kind of in a private space and I start breathing just to get myself calm. Once I get myself calm, and you can put in some spa music if you want, you can light a candle. This is your ritual. You do whatever makes you feel really good. And I envision myself, I close my eyes, I envision myself opening a door and I walk through a corridor. And there's another door there. I then open that second door and I walk into the next corridor. And it's all dark and there are all these doors around. And I pick the door that feels like it's calling out to me. And when I open that door, I step inside and it is me with my old origin story. So I see my old origin story and I read in my mind like what my thinking was behind it, what the narrative was, and where it came from. So just like as I just did with my journaling, I'm going to repeat it in this room. And on the other side is a version of me, a higher version of myself, more elevated, and it forgives me. It helps me to release it, and we say goodbye to the old narrative. I then rewrite the story in that room. I replace it. I say, this is the story that's going to support my greater purpose. It's going to lift me up with strength. It's going to guide me into further success. I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to say it a couple of times over and over again until I feel it kind of going through like I kind of like have it shimmying out down all the way down. Once I feel I have truly embraced this new narrative, I say goodbye. I thank it because there are lessons there. I thank it. I honor it. And I say goodbye. I step out of that room. I close it. I walk down the corridor. I open that other door and I close it as well. That to me has been a very powerful meditation that I've used many times in my life. The most important part of that is to give yourself grace and love. That's the most important part. It's not the time to shame yourself. It's not the time to make yourself feel worse. There's no good that comes from that. It's really to honor the narrative, the origin story, your history, how it came to be, reflect on that, rewrite it, enter into that with strength, and release it and say, thank you so much for this lesson, honoring it. And then you step away. That has been, I hope that helps you all as well. And I'm happy to do a meditation on that if you all want, like towards the end of the year, if you want to do it like to close out the year. I've done that in the past where we do it together, where I'll do it slower and we'll do it all together with the breathing part. So I'm happy to do that if you all want. Does that help you, Monita?
Yes, that's great. And I was just going to say that I think a year-end meditation like that would be very good at many different levels, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm writing it down, ladies, year end. So it
Thank
may
you.
just be us on there because I'm going to put it out there and people are going to be like, what? So it may just be us again, which is fine with me. Go ahead, Helen.
Hey, I just wanted to say, thank you for sharing those stories. I know you said, hey, I don't want to, do too many of them, but the fact that you actually share a personal journey makes it so much more impactful for all of us listening because I see you as a huge success. And so it's actually so great to see that, you struggle with the same things that we do. And I have to say, I really like just totally resonated with this whole, the whole idea that you couldn't do PR because you felt it was very narcissistic. Being that I write for other people, I had the same problem. I don't want to tell my story. I don't want to write my own book. because I don't want to be the center of attention. So many of those things resonated with me. So I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to share with people too that one of the things that I have been doing with myself is saying affirmations. So how could it get better than this? Instead of telling myself what to do, I'm asking the questions. How could I get over this? How could I start writing a book? How could I, whatever. And so if you have trouble with saying things that you don't believe, ask questions instead and let the universe bring it to you.
Oh, I love that, Helen. I love that. I think what you just mentioned, I feel like so many of our femmes struggle with that through social media, through public speaking, through writing their own book, writing in general. And here's the question I ask myself. If we want to show up and really change the world with the gifts and the talents that we were given, where do we need to show up? Where do we need to go? And that will release all of that, the fear that we have of being narcissist, of being like this person that we don't, aspire to be. Then all of a sudden we show up in our authenticity. We show up with our values at the forefront. Every time I write, I think about what is my intention? My intention is like I wrote a piece on Sunday about navigating political times, so I start off with what's my intention? And that's really helped me to frame it, to say my intention is to serve and to help others navigate these times with harmony and balance and love. Great. Then support it. Because if we go, and I love also, Helen, that you mentioned, like, what do I need to do to write that book? I love those questions because it is only going to lead to beautiful things. Love it. Oh my gosh. So I wanted to add the love story because sometimes love was a big thing for me. So for those of you that are new and don't know my story, so I grew up with a mother who was a drug addict and had mental illness and also was a narcissist. So for me, the love story was, if my own mother couldn't love me, then who could? So that was a story that I played over and over in my head. So it led me into really unhealthy relationships because I was like, they say you accept the love you think you deserve. And I felt like I deserve this kind of love because I never had it. And from the person who's supposed to love you absolutely unconditionally, if that person didn't love me, then who would? So that's the love story. Going back into the origin story, and the way that I rewrote that is I said, well, do I have love in my life? Yes. Where is that love in my life? My grandmother was a great person in my life. My aunt is a great person in my life. My friends are great. So rewriting it and saying, you know what? I am worthy of love because I have all these people around me that love me. So therefore, this one person, that's not going to define the way I accept love in my life anymore. And that helped me to up level the way that I receive love into a more healthy way. So that was one that I wanted to share with you, but we were running out of time. I thought we were running out of time, so I didn't want to rush through that. So I'm sharing that in case some of you are struggling with the love story also. I definitely went through that. And that was an ugly cry one. That was an ugly cry one. Any other questions? We have 4 minutes left.
I have just some input, really. I struggle with why I don't do certain things, and I'm not sure I always get to the answer, but one of the things I use to really help me with that is a very simple tool that you can use. I call it the 10-10-10. It came from someone else way back, but it's 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. And how do you feel about something right now is the 10 minutes, whether you really want to do it or really don't want to, and you sort of evaluate that and then compare it to the 10 months, which is basically a year from now. And that's often projects or economy based, to make money, to finish a project, to do something like that. The 10 years is the one that if you look back in 10 years from now, will you be happy that you did or did not do or made this decision one way or the other? And that's, can you sleep at night knowing that what you know now makes sense and that you made that choice? Sometimes you need to take a break and do the thing that just gives you that time. Other times you have to do something you really don't want to do. But if you can really stretch it out to that 10 months and 10 years and really look at the 10 years, that really helps to define the goalposts that you're talking about on a daily basis. How do you make priorities if you don't know what you're aligning to, you're aligning those priorities to?
I love that. I love it. Thank you so much, Linda. And then someone had asked in the chat, Shelly asked, how can you use these old and new origin stories in your content or in your bio? And I know Helen responded, sharing a story that will connect with your particular audience and how you overcame it, will give them inspiration. Laura also answered, share the lessons you've learned. I have found the most viral content that I've created, or the ones that get the most traction, are the ones that are very vulnerable. And, you know, I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want people to know, like, I'm imperfect, right? That's like the first go to, like, I don't want people to know, like, you know, when my husband and I were on welfare and food stamps, I was like, he's like, one day it's going to make for a great book. I was like, oh, I can't tell this to anyone. I'm so embarrassed. I would never tell this to anyone. Like, it's so awful. Like, I don't want people to know. And then when we lost like, $250,000 on investment, he's like, it's going to make for a great book. What are you talking about? I don't want to, I can never tell people that. Like, that's just the most embarrassing thing ever. However, when I've shared those stories, there's a human connection that happens where people understand that you are human just like they are. And there's beauty in inspiring others to push forward, because we're all going through something. Everyone I know is going through something. I don't know anyone who's like, oh, life is perfect. Got no challenges today. It's like, I'm perfect. Everyone's perfect. My life is great. Like, that's everyone's got their own struggle going on. And so I have always found there's beauty in sharing that. And sharing also how you maneuvered that, how you got out of that. Again, if we're here to change the world and be change makers through the work that we're doing, that's part of the journey as well, is to share. I would rather hire someone to help me navigate my business growth that has been through those versus someone who was given $2 million and started their business. How am I going to relate to that person? Like, I want to hear from someone who's got grit, who was like, yeah, I lost money. Like, I didn't have a parachute. I didn't have someone to clean me up or pick me up. I was waiting for Prince Charming. That didn't happen. So you want to hear from people that have gone through that. That's going to make you connect even further with your audience. By the way, I made a video on that on my Instagram, and I think it had like 620,000 views. I think it was one of the ones that I created. Had no makeup on, just felt like inspired to share my welfare story. And that is one that got it just lived. Because why? Because it inspires. It's truth. All right, it's 1:30, ladies. I love you all very much. Even if I just met you, you're probably like, that's odd that she's saying that, but I really do. I wish you all grand success. Anything you need, let me know. You all have my email. I'm going to work on, for December, maybe for the masterclass, we'll do the year-end meditation. Maybe we'll just do that together. I see love. So, okay, I'm going to do that. So again, it may just be the 15 of us, because everybody else will be like, why are they doing that? So we'll do it together. And anyway, if you need anything, let me know. But I'm super excited for you all. I can't wait to hear about all your successes.
Thank you. I have a logistical question, Violetta.
Go ahead.
Sorry, if you don't mind. I tried to sign up for the business networking tomorrow.
Okay.
It won't let me register. It says I have to be like a founder.
No, you have to be a business member. So just log in. Did you log in?
Yeah, I did.
I had a little I don't know. It didn't stop me from logging in, but it said November 5th and not November 6th. Is that the 1 o'clock one you're talking about?
Yeah, the 1 o'clock one.
It says November 5th, but it's just a typo. So I don't know if you got that far.
I didn't. It had me to choose a membership, and then it's like, okay.
Laura, can you email me? Because I'll take a look
at it through the system. I did.
Oh,
just email you directly.
Yeah, because I'm heading to the doctor's appointment now, but just it's Violette at FemCity.com.
Got it.
When I get back, I'll check, and no matter what, I'll send you the Zoom link so that you're in tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yay!
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.